Welcome back to Reiter and Sons. I'm Leo, my brother Joseph on the other end, as he puts it, the one farther away from the end. He's
Hopefully.
hopefully. So before we start today, I just wanted to remind everyone to please subscribe to the channel so you can see more great content like this. And go ahead and click like on the video because you're going to love it. We know that. So you can click like now or you can click like when you finish watching it. It's up to you. But just go ahead and do it now so you don't forget. And you're going to love this one because it's a little bit different. We kind of changed the format a little bit this time. And basically, I honestly have no idea what we're talking about. I have some general ideas. I talk to my brother all the time, but I don't know what the topic is. And without further ado, oh, and by the way, and I promise that I'm going to indulge it. So that's kind of the other side of the deal. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to my brother Joseph to introduce the topic and start interrogating me somehow, and we'll go from there. So Joseph, take it away.
All right, cool. So today I wanted to go a little bit deeper into AI as a product capability, not just tooling, right? Because everyone's talking about tooling. Everyone's excited about building software and how to build software and how to not know coding and build software. Last week I spoke about an exoskeleton mindset. I talked about that in an article I wrote a few years ago, and I want to go into a little bit more this week. So selfishly indulge me, please. So what do I mean by that? Today, or to me, that means, AI as an exoskeleton for solving customer problems, not just building things, but like for the solutions. On the product side of things, I've proposed using a day zero perspective for product. And what I mean from that, if you think about products go from 0 to 1, you'll hear the mantra that people repeat. And so they're saying, we're going to start with a fresh pair of eyes, basically. To me, I think that means letting go of assumptions of the roles that your customers play in solving problems. So what do they do with your solutions? I did want to throw out one cool quote that I think starts to summarize what I mean. It's a Harvard Business School marketing professor, Theodore Levitt. He said, people don't want to buy a 1/4-inch drill, they want a 1/4-inch hole, right? So people have heard some version of that for quite a while. I think the capability leap that we have with AI, it's proving to be that people want a gallery wall in their home. They have no idea. They don't care about what, they care about how. Or sorry, let me rephrase that. They don't care about how, they care about what.
Right.
So for me, my first question for you is, what's a day zero assumption of the role of customers in solving problems that you would let go of?
Oh, I'm not sure I can answer that question. No, I'm just kidding. Giving
Well,
it
that's a
no,
wrap, everyone. Thank
yeah,
you.
right. Giving it no thought at all before we started talking. But you and I have talked about this a little bit, kind of off camera. So I say this. I'll answer it a little bit more generally, and then you can keep interrogating me until you get the answer you want. But basically, um, and in fact, it's when I used to say this to people, or just in general, when I was at at Nimbix a few years ago, when we built a platform to do stuff that people didn't think was possible. Um, but basically, I would say that people tend to limit their view of a solution and what's possible. But they limit their imagination by what they think is possible. So, for example, if you're creating, you're designing something, and let's say that for a fact that and I'm making this up, but let's say for a fact that all it has to fit on a 13-inch screen because you've never seen a computer with anything bigger than a 13-inch screen.
Right.
Well, you're going to draw something that's going to fit on that screen. You're not going to go into the level of detail that you would if somebody suddenly showed you a 50-inch screen or two of them. And it's like, oh wow, now I can actually, I can start putting details on those wheels or whatever it is, right? So the assumption that I want people to let go of is that um, don't think that whatever it is that you want has to fit a certain technological capability, because at the end of the day, yeah, the capability may not exist, but let the people building the solution figure that out and kind of come back to you and say, hey, maybe you can't go at 1.0 light speed, but we can build something that goes 0.99 and gets you close enough, right? So that's the part that I think is gonna really change. And I think what you might be onto as well is that the general public now is kind of seeing, with LLMs and the accessibility of things like ChatGPT and whatever, that kind of what they thought a computer could provide them in the past is, you know, they would not have thought possible that a chatbot would be as powerful as it actually is now. Even though on a technological side, we understand that no, this is not magic. This is an LLM, right? But to the average person, it's like, wow, like that's pretty amazing. That's nothing like what I remember a computer being like. So maybe the public, the user community, let's say, um, whoever you're building products for, is starting to shift their mindset into thinking, think about the art of the possible versus, the art of what fits in the box that I already know to be, inescapable, right? So does that answer your question?
I think so. I think yeah, I guess I give an example too. So I brought up the gallery wall. My wife recently started a new career,
Uh-huh.
and she has an office now for like the first time ever, like
It's not a
an
new
office.
career. It's a huge escalation of the career that she had. I
It's
mean,
a new career. It's a new
she's
career
not a newbie
because
in the space.
right. So she's a nurse practitioner. She's been working in the women's health space for quite a while now. I'm not going to say how many years because I'd probably get murdered. But she has a ton of experience in the area. It's not new to her, but she's a provider now. So
Right.
she was a nurse, which is a different role completely, and now she's a nurse practitioner. So she's actually the provider. So she has an office now in a doctor's office, or I guess a provider's office, if I want to be nicer about it. But that's what we call it. So she wanted to put up like a picture gallery wall. And so she uploaded a few pictures to, I don't even know which AI tool she used. I think probably ChatGPT at the end. And she actually took a picture of the wall and said, I want a gallery layout of these things. And it proposed them. And
Mhm.
then she printed the pictures to fit. She found frames of sizes that she likes, printed the pictures to fit, and we put it up. And it looks pretty darn
You, you,
similar,
you
but
missed
like,
you missed a part. Then she handed you the sheet saying, "Build this." Right? Did you forget that part?
that's correct, but I'm a chaos agent, so that's okay. She just passed it to a different agent.
Right.
No, but she put together the pictures and like found the frames and picked out all the pictures she wanted. So there was a lot of human process in there too.
Sure.
But she's like, I don't know what I want to do to even create this wall. Like I've got a bunch of pictures I want to put up. I want something to look nice. So it came up with an idea. It even came up with a floating shelf, and we did it. So it was really after that, breaking down the logistics. She didn't go all the way down the rabbit hole of having something come up with an exact plan to do it, but she could have. Um, so that would be one example. For her, it was never pick nice picture frames for me. I want to put up a gallery wall. It was literally what you want, not how to do it. And do I need anchors and screws? And what do I need to make this actually work?
It was pure ideation that she was
Yes.
doing. Right. Yes.
And she went back and forth. She asked it for different versions of it. She's like, I don't like the pictures that small. I want them bigger. Like she's got multiple drafts of this until she got there. And at work, it's been a hot topic for us lately. A lot of we'll know it when we see it type of work going on, which to me, my old fashioned way of thinking sounds real expensive, right? Hey, let's
Sounds
just come up
like
with
it.
18 different fully built products and then we'll pick the one we
Yeah.
like better. It's like, oh, great,
That
cool.
sounds almost like if we build it, they will come. Right. That's kind of what that evokes for me. Even though you're not taking it to market because you don't know it yet, but it's somewhat related to that, and we know. Uh, we've learned over the years that that's not the happy path to being successful with a product. But you know,
But that gets into the tooling, right? And so the tooling makes it faster now. So that's, whatever you think of that, I've got opinions on that. Whatever you think of that, it's like the tooling could actually enable you to build out multiple different ideas and help you come up with the ideas and make
yep.
you actually care less about the tooling of how to do it because she wasn't like, how do I create a gallery wall? It was, I need a gallery wall. So that part to me is like, we now enabled truly, I'll know it when I see it as a way to build it.
But that's a market of one. Let's be real clear here.
That's market of one. Now, when you go into product land, now it gets interesting because, you have obviously 0 to 1 is supposed to be brand new products. No one has it before. You think you know what the product or what the problem is that needs to be solved. Maybe
Right.
you experience it. And so you kind of have like some psychological effects where you overestimate how important it is or how much people might be willing to pay for it. But, certainly if you feel the pain, you're getting something you think you at least hit a nerve for yourself. If it's something incredibly niche, maybe not, but um, so in that sense, you can start to go onto a product. I think also the interesting opportunity is we have a lot of legacy products that are built out of companies. People understand the problem space very thoroughly, right?
Yes.
So they
Yes.
have actual pain points. They are begging and pleading technology to fix it
Yes.
for them because it hurts.
Yes.
And a lot of the hurt is caused by other technologies that they already have. Like I have to do something in an accounting system. The accounting system makes this a nightmare because I'm trying to deal with, in one case, 400 something thousand of something. I'm not going to go into exact details on what it is, but that's impractical for a monster team to deal with. So the question is, is there an automation you can build for that and so on? But the problem is understood. And now the interesting part to me becomes from a product management perspective. Um, we used to always go straight into CRUD, straight up automations and how to do it. Now we have an opportunity to say, do we need data entry? Can we train something to understand? And I'm not talking about a specific vendor's platform for it. Could be something that you create. The technology itself enables you to do that yourself. Uh, what could you free up from your time if you could actually focus on the goal, which might be reducing outstanding debt that your customers have with you, and so on? What could you actually accomplish if you had more time to focus on some of the more high touch things that you need to do instead of this incredible mechanical process that we've created due to a lot of technologies going on around you?
Right.
So,
That's really interesting. So I'm going to ask you a question now, if that's all right with you, because I think
please.
we kind of, again, just while I didn't know today's topic, you and I have talked about this. It's pretty much we talk about it all the time. So the one bit that I think we kind of don't necessarily fully agree on, because I agree with what you said about the on the ideation side, is the actual execution side. And my proof for that is the fact that you described your wife's, I'm going to keep her name private, problem solving as in purely ideation space, and you left out the fact that somebody had to go build that. And in the thing you described is a known quantity, right? I mean, it wasn't like, I mean, without taking anything away from the beauty of whatever it is, it's you're just drilling shit onto a wall, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're cutting, you're measuring, you're drilling, you're screwing, that kind of thing. So the part that I don't necessarily think you can completely leave out of the equation is how do we build this shit, right? And you're but then it's a catch 22, because if you actually make that part of the ideation, you're committing that mistake that I said I hope customers and product people don't commit. You don't want to restrict yourself by what you think is possible. But at some point you have to say, okay, that's really cool, but it's not about does the technology exist to build it? Of course it does. Question is, you know, because otherwise the model would not have spit out the idea, right? It's not it's trained on stuff that already exists. So clearly, whatever it is
Sure.
that it ideated or helped you ideate, if that's even a word, is something that it can be built, right? But for example, maybe your budget to build the product is limited. Your skills are highly limited for whatever reason, and they're not easy to acquire. Or maybe it's an identity problem, right? Like for example, maybe whatever it asks you to build requires you to build a team that knows how to write video games or something, and you have a team that currently knows how to write kind of back office software, right? So again, it's but it is an identity change to build a creative team versus a purely kind of business focused development team. So my question to you is this, right? Because when we've talked about this, your answer was basically like, no, whatever, it can be built, don't worry about it. And I'm oversimplifying, but the other side of product management that's really important is the financial side. And
Sure.
the it's not just the what am I building, it's like, is it cost effective, am I going to get ROI on it, is it and that when you're talking about technical teams building stuff, whether it's I'm going to use software, um you have to measure the ability to execute. You have to consult with your engineering teams to see how long it's going to take to build. Now, of course, they're all going to sandbag and tell you it's going to take them years, and it's probably only going to take them a few weeks. But I say that with all due respect to my team and my teams in the past, right? Like we tend to our first answer is always like, oh, that's way too hard, whatever. And then like over time we were like, yeah, there's a way to do it, et cetera. And you can argue that the AI, or not, you can argue very credibly that the AI on the execution side also helps cut that down if it's in the right hands. I'm not talking about just throwing a bunch of nonsense into it and having it vibe code you something, because then you have to go and fix it, right? We know this to be true now. It's more about like having a skilled person with a let's say a junior level experienced assistant that has all the skills in the world. They just don't have the experience to build stuff. So they need that experienced person to actually help, guide how they're going to build stuff. That's how, at least in my experience, AI for developers is really kind of game changing. It's like every developer has an assistant, right? Effectively. And when you start going agentic and multi-agent and whatever, now you can end up with many assistants, right? If you have the budget to pay for the tokens, of course.
Right.
But so my question to you, long-winded question, is okay. How do you how do you, how do you consider the feasibility of something at the time of ideation or around the time of ideation? What's your process there?
The feasibility. So, yeah, obviously you have to go from an idea like solving some grandiose problem with mass amount of compute to what actually are going to be my costs, at least over some period of time, right? You probably have a better idea in the short term of what your costs are going to be, and you hope that they become better over the long haul with more customers or cheaper technologies coming out. So for ideation, though, your question was process for ideation.
No, your process for reconciling execution with ideation, so that you don't limit your ideation, but you also keep it grounded in reality, right? Like what, walk me through kind of some of your thinking there.
I think one of the opportunities that we have, we talked about product market of one
Uh-huh.
with vibe coding. I think people are beginning to believe that vibe coding is the replacement for engineering. I'm not, I'm a little bit more skeptical on that. Let's just put it mildly. But what I do think it can give you is the ability to try a few different approaches against each other.
For
You
sure.
may not want to ship what it creates because you don't really know the quality of it. You don't know if it architecturally is sound, but you can actually try a few architectural approaches against each other. So the try it or see it, know it when you see it, could also actually involve creating an experiment to actually understand. I don't know that that was ever feasible before. So this is a product management capability that we didn't have. It's like, do you want your product manager vibe coding your product? Depends if you're a company of one. If you are a company of many and you have people who actually are, highly skilled at building secure, stable, scalable architecture, probably not, at least not by yourself. Um, but what you can actually do is not actually ask an engineer, should we do things? How should we do this? You can actually explore the approaches on your own, even if you
Right.
don't understand. So you may actually take a step back and use this tooling or this I shouldn't say tooling, this type of technology, this capability for your own ability to bounce off ideas. People do this all the time. Now you
Yep.
can actually build POCs and actually analyze the costs of them and come up with some ideas and say, okay, this is massively more expensive than I thought it was, or this is really not. There could be two fairly similar looking approaches to it that could have something to them. And then, of course, you don't want to leave out the experience and expertise that you have around you, but you may actually come to a conclusion about what is possible and what's not, what is economically feasible and what's not. So I think
Well,
that's where I'd use that.
let me say two things about that. I think one's going to be very much in favor of what you said, and the other one's going to be a little skeptical. So the favorable one is, we used to ask product managers, or at least a product management function, not the necessarily the head of product management, to like make a wireframe, right? Make a wireframe. Like you want something, you should make me a wireframe. So, and this was a way to communicate to teams, at least the user experience side of the implementation. Then you had your architects figure out how to build the back end and all that stuff. What you're talking about, vibe coding a prototype off of an idea and running it, it's, I mean, of course, it's orders of magnitude more powerful than a wireframe, but it's in the same family, right? It's like the product manager is building something that can show. But again, the part that and it's not self-serving at all. It's I truly believe that um you cannot take that prototype and give it to customers for production. Maybe you can show it to them. You can say, hey, play with this, tell me what you think, whatever. But you cannot. Let's just be real clear about something. Software development is not the same thing as coding. Coding is a small part of software development.
Sure.
There and especially when you're talking about a software for a mass market where you know you have unknown points of integration and edge cases and all these different things that your customers are going to just try to do because you didn't tell them what not to do, and you can't because you didn't even think of this. Or if it's for any kind of even an internal service, right? It has to survive an SLA. You can't build a mission critical system that doesn't have the reliability, and it's not built like a mission critical system on the back end that integrates with all your other stuff, etc. It is not, and I'm not saying that this stuff can't be achieved with agentic methods, but you don't just throw it over the wall. There is a whole lot of practice, especially when there's regulations involved, especially when the complexity at an enterprise level gets way 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 harder. If I'm building myself an app to do whatever, to just give me stock tips or something, which I know plenty of people have done with vibe coding and they've been very successful with, um, then that's me. If it makes a mistake, I lost money, right? If I'm selling this thing to a mass market and 80% of what it recommends is garbage and people lose their shirt, guess what? They're going to sue me, right? Like no matter how many disclaimers I put on, unless the disclaimer I put on it says don't believe anything this thing says, I'm going to get sued, you know? E- Even if it says I'm not responsible for your performance, like, this stuff can actually happen and does happen. So the market of one, going back to that, for a product person to realize an idea and show it, it's incredibly powerful. But you have to, on the execution side, coding, and in fact, I would say it like this: at the junior level, coding is probably like 100% of what you do, besides sit in meetings and ticket monkey type stuff, right? At the senior level, it's probably like 5% of what you do. Okay. Because you're the guy who actually understands how software works, what it's supposed to do, what it's not supposed to do, how to know not to do something. How again, it's so much more than actually implementation. If you can leverage these agents to do implementation for you at your command, it's a force multiplier. There's no question about it. But I haven't seen anything yet that's going to replace an experienced software person when it comes to building quality, repeatable software product. I don't think that exists.
And
Mic
it
drop.
might at some point. I would say I would definitely not advocate for. I mean, if you are the only person at a company, you do this at your own personal risk, just like starting any business.
Sure.
You might actually, before this was even a possibility, go and build a product knowing nothing about how to build products, how to build safe software or scalable software, protect yourself legally, all of these things. There's a million things you don't know. What I think you don't know now, um, I think you're pretty confident that a lot of things could be built with software, but you don't actually know what is the trade off between one or the other. And I think you don't even have a framework for experimenting. If you could actually try out 4 or 5 different approaches to something, like let's say, we have all these assumptions. I'm saying, look, I don't know if you've seen the movie Big Hero 6. At one point, there are two brothers. One of the brothers literally holds his brother upside down and says, try a new perspective, right? So we all try to do that every day, right? You didn't do that to me, I don't think. At least I don't remember it. If you did it definitely didn't stick in my head. But
Good.
I think what it gives you is the ability to say, I'm not building an app. I'm worried about the problem. I have a problem. You're probably going to ask one of these agents is going to tell you, oh, you need a data entry app that does this, this, and that. You say, no, no. I'm solving a problem. How do I solve the problem? And then maybe, try to talk through some approaches like, well, what do I want to know? What is a higher order problem that my customers actually have? When I talk to them, they don't say, man, I need efficient data entry. Hell
No.
no. They say, I need my books to balance and I am losing sleep overnight because there are things I'm missing because there is no human in the world who can understand this in depth.
Okay, but
How do I solve that problem?
what if it comes up with something that's not a product, right? What if it's
Well, I
like,
believe you still have a job to do, right? So,
no, no, what do you do, right? What if it says, oh, you just need to hire a high school kid in a summer job to like sort, to flip through some paperwork for you or whatever it is. And, like, what do you do as a product manager with that information, right? And that's a very simplistic example, but it may not, if you describe a problem, the solution might be like, we'll just use a hammer instead of a screwdriver, instead of build a new kind of tool, right? Like, what do you do?
so for me personally, I think this is all about shaking up your perspective. I think you're looking for some tendency breakers, as they talk about in football and all these other sports, right? Like I tend to look at things as data entry problems, so I always see them that way. It's like,
Right.
how do I take a step back and maybe get an off the wall answer like that? Like hire high school students. You're like, okay, I'm not going to dismiss this. I want to
By the
think
way,
about
we're
this a
not
little bit.
advocating child labor here. We're talking about 18-year-old high school students, right? Just to be real clear to the world, right?
Well, we're also talking about what, like
Right,
3 or 4 year old AI models, actually several month old ones at a time. So we are advocating for child AI labor. So
okay.
now,
Well,
granted,
we've got time. Yeah.
we've got time for that, but I think the mixing things up for you a little bit and trying to get a different perspective will probably be more useful than trying to stare all day and think about how you explain to a software development team what you're trying to get to,
Sure.
and hopefully have them understand and buy into your vision. This is helping you build a vision. And I
Yes.
think trying to get different perspectives is probably one of those things that I would say you can have the best network in the world. Um, you can have incredible mentors, incredible variety of them. You cannot have all of them, right? So now, one of the things that I think you do get with, with something that has read the internet for better or for worse, is you get a variety of perspectives that you cannot possibly achieve as a human. So how do you leverage that and say, okay, so in other countries, this is how they solve the problem. In industrialized countries, they do this. In countries where the machinery is an absolute insane, pipe dream that'll never happen, how do they solve these problems? I watch videos on YouTube where they show people fabricating in India. Um, and these are like things that you would think of happening in incredible factories, right? With like machining and other things. There are people fabricating in sand, right? Where they actually create molds in sand, then they pour into them, then they smooth and sand them. And it's an incredibly simple process that we don't even comprehend anymore because our frame of reference is factories, mass production, industrialization. And now you're looking at a completely different perspective that's a little bit different to you, but it makes sense. And so it's not necessarily saying I want to go back to fabricating in sand. What I'm saying is, I haven't even, it's not top of mind. When I'm trying to be creative, I'm so stuck in these ways of
Right.
this is how we always do things. And that's the death of all products, right? We've
Yep.
always done it this way. Great.
Yep.
So do all of your competitors. So does everyone else. Now
Yeah. Right.
what?
Right. Yeah. You don't think of doing math you think of doing math in a spreadsheet, right? Not on an abacus. Um, but the problem you're trying to solve might actually be better suited for an abacus, right? I can't
Or
think
at
of any.
least that thought process of taking a massive shortcut. Like I'm not trying to do a big data computation across a data set that could take, 5 hours to run. I'm just trying to keep a running total. That is a very different math problem than the
Yes.
one that you're going to ordinarily throw at it, which is crunching a mass amount of data. And you're saying, no, I'm just keeping a running score as data is changing. And now when I need an answer, I have it immediately. And I don't need to do massive statistics on it. I just need to have a running total.
And there's some incredibly simple old methods. I forgot what it's called. I can't think of it now, but the one with the four lines and the line through it to count to five. It's got a name. I can't. Do you remember the name?
No.
Okay.
Oh, like
Anyway,
just keeping tally, like with
yeah,
with like
tally,
lines and
right?
slash.
It
Right.
has
Like
a it's
practical problems before you
yeah,
could,
but I mean, I can
could
look
click
at
it.
it's like you're counting the days in prison, right? Not that I would know, but like you just scratch it on the wall and like you just look at it. Yeah, I've been here for 100 days because you see, you see 20 of those things, right? So, and it takes you like a split second to see that, right? Um, versus like, oh, let me log, in the computer, let me, put the date and all this stuff, and it's like to get the same exact answer at the end, right? So, yeah, that's really interesting. I think it kind of brings us to another quick point, and that is, how do you feel about there's well, let's say there's an AI first mentality out there in a lot of places and
For
in a lot
sure.
of the world, and not everything's an AI problem. And I think we learned this with other tools, right? Like, and yet we've got examples of like, I mean, my simple example is this, right? I need to make 3 slides. And I'm just throwing this out because I had a recent thing. I need to make 3 slides. And I spent, because I wanted to see what the AI would do. Normally, I would just go make the slides. It takes me 5 minutes to make 3 slides. These are
Right.
internal, nothing crazy about them. I described to the AI in a prompt what I wanted the slides, what would the message I wanted to write. And in the time that I wrote that prompt, I could have probably done at least 2 of the slides because I just had to articulate it. And then it took, some amount of time to produce them, another, let's say a couple of minutes. And because I wasn't using like, a lot of tokens to do it or whatever. And then I looked at the output and it's like, no, I'm not trying to warn people to stop smoking. I just wanted to describe a process to them. So let me try it
Sure.
again, like make it a little bit less on. And I ended up going back and forth with the AI like 20 times to make those 3 slides. And I still don't like what it did. I'm still going to make the 3 slides myself. But now I fully understand the message, but I already understood it before. But there's other stuff too. Like, for example, you know, give me telling the AI, hey, can you tell me how many tickets I closed last sprint? Well, Jira just tells you that, like when you click backlog, right? Like, or you don't have to produce a prompt.
Right.
And
But you're asking the wrong question. You're asking, what is it, deterministic type of questions. And now what you
that's
should ask
exactly
this
my
thing
point.
is, you should ask this thing, who's struggling and where?
No
Where is my
question.
team getting bottlenecked? And you can see this
Okay.
stuff from like a cumulative flow diagram. Maybe you can
Yep.
interpret it if you're
Yes.
one of these people who enjoys this type of thing. But if you're trying to ask it for an insight, now we're talking. And it may
Right.
not be right. It could absolutely make it up, which is kind of bonkers. But
You have people out there that are advocating just to make use of this stuff, solve deterministic problems that we have tons of tooling that already solves with these
sure,
tools because they're better. And it's like you're getting the same answer, you spent way more on it, and it took way longer to produce it. How is that better, right? To your point, you're asking the wrong question, but I wonder if the world actually understands that like the AI giving, first of all, it can't a deterministic answer done by a standard sort of a data product or something something that just looks up data and spits it out is going to be 100% right because it's data driven. An AI is going to effectively generate a deterministic answer. It's going to be wrong at least some of the time. So
you want it to give you an opinion. You don't want it to give you a
sure,
statistic or a raw
sure,
answer. It can probably fetch one for you. Hopefully, it doesn't hallucinate one. But
right.
you're hoping that you take, like, let's say, customer surveys, which is a notoriously horrible thing to deal with, right? You want the open-ended answers because that is where the useful meat of the problem is. So
Right.
one thing I took, for instance, one of the products that I work on is unfortunately a horrible little data entry tool, but it has a free text area, and I said to to this actually it was just Copilot, right? So I was like in Excel, I'm like, I finally barfed this data out into some way that I could hand over to a different team so that they could understand what people are doing with it. And I said, what are people commonly asking for? What are they trying to describe when we ask them to describe the problem? And it summarized them into like 8 different categories of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and they are
That's
things that I already knew, but it
sure.
also told me, it didn't give me just the raw statistics of it.
Right.
It told me that the majority are looking for this, they are trying to do this type of activity. So I could actually ask it as a partner going through a mass amount of data, try to interpret this for me. Tell me what my problems are that I need to handle. I think this is where, obviously coding is coding and that's something that people are really looking into. But to me, it's also be a partner to me, an ideation partner. It could
Sparring
be
partner.
an analysis partner, although be wary because it may not know how to interpret your data.
Sure.
Um, but then again, that is again another programming problem that you can resolve is you can make it easier to interpret data. Now you can go back to this higher order problem of what do I need to fix? Where are my bottlenecks? Where are my opportunities? Bring in perspectives that I don't have because I am myopic. I am this close to the problem every single day. And I'm not seeing that if I took a step back and had no idea what this business was, I walked in and said, oh, that's weird. I've seen that before. That's stupid. Don't do that.
Right.
I want that. I want
Yes.
a partner I can talk to. So from
Yes.
that perspective, I think there's massive opportunity. It's not an obviously product only opportunity, but I
Yes.
think putting that hat on for product and saying, I now have a lot of mentors. Some of them are not great, but I can see a lot of perspectives at once, and I can perhaps put a completely different point of view. I can bring one in without bringing in a consulting firm, and maybe a consulting firm
You
has
don't want
very
a
strong
really
opinions.
expensive answer? Or what are you talking about? Yeah. You don't want to
I
pay
mean, we
like a
can have an infinite dollar answer. Right now, AI is cheap compared to, consultants. That might not be the case anymore.
I think it's gonna be the case.
In 10 years, it could be much more expensive because massive volume could be unlocked. But, you have that ability to bring in different perspectives. Even if you brought in a consulting firm, you're probably going to get a recommendation, maybe
Right.
two, and
Right.
some may be beneficial and self-serving. So now I'm saying you don't actually care how I build this until the companies that own these products start to, push you towards their own solutions. But hopefully human BS filters should activate at that point. Um, but
All right.
you can get
On
that.
that, I get it. On that note, let's just summarize it like this.
Yeah.
Great partner, great sparring partner, great ideation partner. We love it. We're going to keep using it. But humans still matter, especially just to be the, as you mentioned previously, the chaos agent. Um, and the point about the consultancy and AI getting more expensive, I think AI is going to get much more expensive once it kills off consultancies because then it's not going to have any competition. But that's just my opinion.
That's
Before
fair.
our audience our audience starts hallucinating, not just their LLMs, I think we should let them get back to their what they were doing before. Hopefully, their prompts will get a little smarter this time, and they will go to that deterministic tool for a deterministic answer. So this is our hope. Um, but thank you so much for spending some time with us. We look forward to the next time. And Joseph, since it was your idea, why don't you tell them what we're going to talk about next?
Hold on a second. If I magically came up with this idea, it's going to be your turn.
Oh,
Um,
all right. Then we'll tell you next time then. But anyway, once again, please subscribe. Definitely click like. We know you like the video. Click like at least once. Do not click dislike. And we'll see you next time. Thanks again. Bye.
and I would say, actually, if you do click dislike, please let us know why.
Yeah,
More
and
of, less of, and we definitely want to know what's going on.
let us know in the comments and tell us who you are and where you live as well, please.
Thank you so much. See you next time. Bye bye.